Was there any time in your career where you wanted to give up or you wanted to quit your job?
I don't think I've ever wanted to quit. Oh, when I first started, when I was 15, I started to work for a fast food company. And at the age of 17, I was a shift leader. So I actually, during the shifts, I ran the operations part of it. And there were a lot of non-productive full-time managers there that whenever a shift manager came in, they would go in their offices and not help out when you had like a rush of people coming in, right? You needed help on the line, you needed help, whatever. So, the whole thing of this whole story is I told one of the managers off and said, we were getting slammed. We needed help. I sent one of the employees back there to get you. You never came out, and we're running around and looking for things, and you could have been there to help us. And her response was, well, there doesn't seem to be anybody here. And I'm like, pull the sales to see how much sales we pulled in the last hour where you weren't here helping. And then she gave me some attitude. And at that time, I'm young, I just said, you know what? I quit. And I threw my keys at her and I left.
So you did leave the job?
Yeah. So I did leave that job. And then the next day I went back in to clean up my stuff and I spoke to the GM of the store. And I was hoping to get a better response from him, right? But his response was more of a siding with her.
Right.
And I didn't think he was, because I was young, because I wasn't a full-time manager. I felt that him looking down on the age factor was one thing, and the lack of experience that I had, and him taking her side of everything and not hearing my side. I just felt, you know what, I can't work for an organization like this, especially a GM who is never going to have my back or never going to listen to both sides of the story, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of the workers who supported me because they were there during that shift and they were part of us getting slammed and busy and so forth, right? So he didn't even listen to them. Like, there was witnesses. And so I felt that I couldn't work for that company anymore. So I just left, And when I left, yes, it wasn't on good terms, because you should never leave a job in anger and say I quit. You take a breath, you walk away, and then you decide if you still want to work there. But yeah, that was the only time I ever actually lost it.
So other than that, like later on, like with your actual, from the start of your internship, you've never wanted to quit, or you've never wanted to,
we all have those days. We have always had those days you go, this job is too much. I want to quit. But then it's just the heat of the moment, because right now you're just stressed. That's your stress talking, right? But no. I mean, I've lasted, I lasted 28 years at one job, 4 years at another job, almost 2 years at my part-time job, 3 to 4 years with Rolf. So looking at all the places that I worked and the length of service, you could see that I was committed to an organization. Like, my commitment's there. If I was not happy, I would have been gone. You would have seen me jumping around from job to job, right? And stuff. Yeah.
So in a way, you were fortunate enough to find a job that suit your, needs and your commitments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also felt that I was good at that job. Like, I felt that I've had really great experiences in the places that I worked. And that I utilize all the skills that I had learned from other jobs into my current jobs. Because every skill is you can use part of that skill and tasks that you've learned and transferred into whatever position you're at.
Right.
And because I have really high work ethics built in me, and because it's my parents and how they, told us how we should present ourselves in any organization that we work. My work ethics and standards are very high when it comes to how I look at myself and how I need to do my skills and my jobs, right? And sometimes I do get disappointed when I'm working with someone who doesn't have the same passion as I do or the same skill set as I do. But then I have to realize we all can't have that type of work ethic, maybe because they don't have a lot of experience, but, and it's also depending on what type of organizations that you've worked for and how detailed their standards are, or how precise the standards are of any organizations, right? That's one of the things that I get from finance when working in finance, right? Is making sure everything balances, being very detail oriented, looking at your reports more than once before you send out anything with figures in it. Make sure it balances. It's a representation of your company and of who you are, because you're the one who prepared it, right? In human resources, what I learned about is looking at two sides of a coin. It's not always, I'm not always going to be right. I have to look at both sides, right? From an HR perspective, one of my colleagues always, whenever she has an issue, she'll come to me, and then I said, well, I see it from this person's point of view as this way, but I see it from your point of view as this way. And she goes, you know what? I said, you have to look at putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing what the other person's doing, right?
Right.
And she goes, she goes, you always tend to, look at things that way. And I said, yeah, I said, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to look at things from both ways, because that's how you should be looking at things, right? Like, if you want to have a good team rapport, you got to look at everyone's skills, and seeing what everyone else has on their plate. You can't just assume, that someone's out to get you or whatever, because, they're criticizing you. Maybe did you do something wrong? Did you not have the report done on time? Why would that person be upset at you? There's got to be a reason. Maybe you need to go back to that person and ask them. It's always about communication. I always find that people don't communicate as much as they should. You said having a good work ethic, it could be really good, and it also could be very bad, in the sense that
can you give me an example?
Yeah, I have very high standards and great work ethics when it comes to myself, but my expectations is everybody else should have that type of work ethic. So when they don't have that work ethic, it almost makes me feel like, oh my God, like, why is this person not showing passion, or why aren't they doing it this way, or why are they taking so long to do it, or why are they logging off at 5 o'clock? It needs to get done. So that can be a downfall, because when you have high expectations of yourself, you expect everyone else to have those same work ethics, and when that person doesn't, you're sort of disappointed in them, and not showing that same passion that you have.
So how do you resolve that conflict? So that discrepancy between your expectation and others versus their actual work, their performance. So how do you resolve that conflict?
I usually take the leadership role, and I usually tell them what needs to be done. This is what needs to be done. This is a day needs to be done. This is your assignment. Get it done. Right? And if you don't get it done, I'm sorry, but your name's stamped on it. You were assigned it. This isn't, even though it's a team effort, I will say to the manager that, yes, as a team, we worked on it, but you need to tell so-and-so that they need to just step it up a little bit and get it done. Right?
So you were upfront about it.
I don't beat around the bush. I'm very upfront. One thing I've told, one of the things that we all put on faces and masks, And what I mean by that is like when someone asks you, like me asking, when someone asks you, like, how are you today? The response would be, oh, I'm doing great. When in maybe reality, you aren't. Have you ever said to anybody, oh, I'm having a crappy day? Right? Have you ever said that to someone? When they said, no,
not really.
Right? Why can't we say that if we had a crappy day? Right? Why do we have to put on masks and on all these fronts on it? Like, I would say, that was me. But, after working for so long, I would have to say like a month ago, I was so busy, and I had a lot of projects that needed to be done. So my boss called me and says, oh, how are you today? And I said to her, I haven't dropped dead yet. Right? And she paused and was like, okay. Because she didn't expect me to say that, right? She expected me to say, oh, I'm having a good day. How about you? Right? And she's like, oh, okay. What can I do to help you alleviate? And I said, oh, you know what? I needed a deadline extended on this project. Is it possible? Yeah. Okay, great. And I'm not as stressed, right? I haven't dropped dead yet. And she goes, well, if you feel like you're going to drop dead anytime, can you just give me the heads up so I don't have to worry about you? And I said, yeah, okay. Right? But see, that's where we're not honest with people. We put on, and that's where the internal stress comes, right? Because people really don't show that type of stress. And I think people don't show that type of stress because one of the things people would think of is, oh my God, my manager might not think that I can handle my tasks, or I'm not a productive member of the team because I can't do this and I need help, right? Or what's wrong with me? I should be able to get this done, right? Like maybe I'm slow, and so those are the things that people tend to have circling in their heads when they ask for help or require help, that they think that my boss is going to think that I'm not productive or that I can't handle the task, or in reality, maybe it's not you, maybe it's the task in itself and how many other tasks that you have to do within the day, right? Yeah. And that all comes to communication and letting them know how you really feel, right? And if you don't have a boss that's sympathetic towards you or whatever, then maybe you need to figure out if there's a job out there that can give you a little bit more balance in your life.